So this video is to expound upon the theory between Matthew 24 and this verse where we have the people of the day of Noah being destroyed by the flood. What I'm contending here is Jesus is not talking about the people who are being destroyed. And through teachings, it's a very popular teaching. There's a couple different variances, and I'm sure my view has been repeated millions and millions of times over the years. If anyone's ever heard of this theory before, please feel free to comment. I don't read outside the Bible. I only read the Greek and what's in the Bible. And what I'm reading here is in Matthew 24:37, and the same thing in Luke 17. Jesus is not talking about the people being destroyed. Jesus is talking about the people being saved. That's right. The people that are going to be saved are the ones that he's referring to. And it always struck me as odd. And, again, Bart Ehrman, Peter Brown, they've all put in their 2 cents and they all contend it's the more popular way of thinking on this. But I don't think that's correct at all. And I think what I have here is the way it should be read and to understand what Christ is really saying. So here we have Matthew 24:37. For the coming of the Son of Man will just be like the days of Noah. Okay? That's going to be judgment. For as in those days before the flood, they were eating, drinking, marrying, until Noah entered the ark. And they did not know until the flood came and lifted them all. Now, I contend the flood came and lifted them all is the ark being lifted, just like it's being lifted in Genesis 7:17. The ark is the main point of that story. The people that had died and the animals are kind of grouped up. They actually described everyone just who's breathing, but the animals are the ones that are described first, and then the human beings, and then the birds. So the people weren't even an emphasis here. Here, I think everyone thinks that the emphasis is on the people being destroyed. It's going to be judgment, but he is talking about that. Like I said, there's a lot going on here. But if you read carefully, I think you'll understand it as I am, is that when Noah entered the ark, and here I'm reading from the NASB, just to be more neutral, they did not know until the flood came and lifted them all. And then you hear then it goes on to say, so will the coming of the Son of Man be. And then you have these two people, these groups of people, and they're divided by two people. Two people in the field, two ladies grinding corn or grain. So you have two different types of people in this scenario. One's going to be killed and one's not going to be killed. The ones that are going to be killed, it's going to be more of like a judgment, when it comes to the Roman army being destroying them. But the ones that they're emphasizing, that Christ is emphasizing in these two chapters, is not those people. He's mentioning them, but the emphasis is on the people that escape. Here in chapter 39, Matthew 24:39, and they did not know until the flood came and lifted them all. That is referring to the ark. I'm quite sure of that now. I think it's quite clear. Now, that doesn't make much sense when you continue to read in 40 and 41, because here they're talking about if the people didn't understand what was happening until the flood came, and when you get into 41, there will be two men in one field. One will be taken, one will be left. And I don't think it really extends to that. It's just kind of, the flood came, they didn't understand what was going on until the water lifted up the ark. And then they said, oh, the ark's being lifted up. Now I understand. In this story. But when you go to Luke, and we finish with 39, so will the coming of the Son of Man be. Now over in Luke 17:30, you hear the same thing. It will be just the same on the day that the Son of Man is revealed. On that day, the one who is on the housetop, whose goods are in the house, must not go down to take them out. And likewise, the one in the field, the one who is in the field must not turn back. Then it goes on to say, remember Lot's wife, those who those who seek to keep their lives and preserve it, etc., etc. Then you get down to verse 34. I tell you, on that night there'll be two in one bed, and then two women grinding, and then two men in the field. But when we go back to 30, you'll see from Matthew 24, it's saying the same thing. They add revealed here, but it will be just the same on the day that the Son of Man is revealed. Now, what are they talking about here? Are they talking about the people being destroyed? No, that's not the emphasis. The emphasis in both stories are the people. The people have knowledge beforehand. They don't build an ark. It's more like Sodom and Gomorrah, where he says everything was fine, then the flood came, and they were all destroyed. In Luke 17, Sodom and Gomorrah, everything was fine, then fire and brimstone rained down from heaven, and they were all destroyed. So that's it for them. But what about the people? Well, Sodom got out, or Lot got out of Sodom. Noah got out of the flood situation. I don't know what city it was or where it was. But the emphasis that Jesus is trying to convey to his listeners is the people that have this knowledge beforehand. And that's why he keeps saying, keep on the lookout. Keep your oil and lamps and wicks, lit. Don't despair. When he says things like, it's in verse 21. Right here. But keep on alert at all times, praying that you may have strength to escape all these things that are about to take place and to stand before the Son of Man. And that's in Luke 21:36. And that's why he keeps telling people to be vigilant. It's not, we say things today like, oh, the sign of the times, because we think Jesus is still coming back, but that's not true. Jesus said he was coming back a long time ago, and he did. There's no proof of it because people have their own idea of what heaven and the new heavens and earth is going to be. But it did come in. And with this, what Christ is saying here is the people who are paying attention, the people that keep on the alert, the people that stay sober, these are the ones that will be able to discern the sign of the times. And when they see the desolating sacrilege, when they see the abomination of desolation as it's described in Luke, when he says the Roman army, that's what it is. When you see this sign, the day that the Son of Man is revealed, that's the sign. Don't even go down and get your coat. Don't just run. That's the sign. That's the sign of the coming of the Son of Man. Other people would not perceive this. They're not aware, just like Lot. The people in the days of Noah, they did not understand until the flood came and lifted the ark away. It was just a flood to them. I don't even know what relationship they did have with God, and I've been looking at that more. But I really don't think that would change the subject. The outcome of this theory, because it doesn't matter if they believe in God or knew God. People believe in God now, and people know God now, but they still not to choose. If there was a gigantic earthquake and it killed people here in the Pacific Northwest, I don't think people would sit here and say, oh no, God is judging us. They wouldn't think that. They would be terrified. But if while they're being terrified, in this case, Noah's time with the ark, they're on their roof or they're up in a tree and it's flooding and they're like, oh my gosh, what's happening here? And then they look over at the ark, and there it is being lifted up by the water. Now they understand. Now they understand what's going on here. That's what the ark was for. And it's like that when you continue on, it will be just the same as the Son of Man, but it switches over. The emphasis is not on the ark anymore. The emphasis here is for the people who would be on the ark. So for here in Jerusalem, it's the people, their perception. They're the ones that are going to be saved. That's what Jesus is telling them. It's not foretelling all their deaths. They will die, and he told them that. It's going to be real bad, like in Matthew 20, the end of Matthew 23, especially when Jesus told them that. They were going to be destroyed, and it was going to be horrible. But here, Jesus is telling them, he's comforting them in a way. You're going to see the sign of the times. You're going to see the abomination of desolation. And when you see it, run. Their 2 feet are their ark. Their 2 feet are going to get them out of Jerusalem and up into the mountains. And that's what it's talking about here. Jesus emphasizing, I think Luke 17:30 proves this theory, that the emphasis here is on the people that are his people, that will perceive what's happening, and they will run out. And then you have, again, starting in verse 34, in Luke 17:34, you have this, like they have in Matthew again, one will be taken, one will be left. And we know from the earlier videos that I have produced, the taken is received, or more accepted in that range, received, accepted, because when they run out, they will eventually be received. There will be no force, there will be no ark, there will be no nothing. It will just be beforehand knowledge. Just like Lot. Lot was much sooner. Here's the information, I'm going to destroy it, you got to go. But here, I'm going to tell you, and you need to be alert for 40 years. But when you see it, run. Tell everyone else too. These are probably people's kids that heard this story, that ran out. A multitude of people. But there's going to be 2 types of people. One that will be received, and one that will be left. Left, cast off, left behind. So, whoever asked this question at the end, in verse 37, said to him, Jesus, "Where, Lord?" ? And Jesus gives this answer that's kind of cryptic. Where the body is, there also the vultures will be gathered. So these people are the ones that are going to be left in Judea, and they're going to be killed, and they're going to become feed for birds. And if we go back to Matthew 24, he says the same thing. Wherever the corpse is, there the vultures will be. But before that, what is he saying? He's saying the same thing that he's saying in Luke 17. Beware of false Christs. Don't go out in the wilderness. Don't go in the rooms. Don't go looking for these people, because it's not going to be that way. It's going to be more like a shining light. It's going to be more like a sunrise, and the light casting over the land. Its rays from east to west is what it says. That astrape. And here it talks about in Matthew 24, therefore when you see the abomination of desolation which was spoken of through Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place, let the reader understand. The reader understand. The people, the disciples, not just everyone. It's not common knowledge, and even if it was, it's like a parable. They hear it, but they're not listening. They don't get it. It just doesn't register. Then those who are in Judea must flee to the mountains. These are the persons on their rooftop, people in the fields, people grinding. They got to get out. And again, whoever is on the housetop must not go down to get his things. You don't have time for that. Whoever is in the field must not turn back and get his cloak. But woe to those who are pregnant, babies, Sabbath. There's going to be great tribulation. Unless those days have been cut short, he gets into that. And then they talks about the false Christ and false prophets. He even talks about don't go in the inner rooms, don't go out in the wilderness. we talk about the lightning again in verse 27. Then you have verse 28 again. In 27, so will be the coming of the Son of Man be, like lightning when it flashes. Wherever the corpse is, there the vultures will gather. Now here, these people, it's a little different because the people have been deceived. The people are believing in false Jesuses, false Christ, false. They're going into rooms, they're going out. They're believing in something that Jesus is warning against. Don't believe these people. I'm not going to come back that way. It's going to be more like a sunrise. And then he says that same line cryptically in a different spot, but it actually is kind of in the same, parallel-wise, it is kind of in the same place. Wherever the corpse is, there the vultures will gather. Those are the people that are going to be left behind. Those are the people that are become bird food. Okay? So what Jesus is emphasizing here, again, I contend in Matthew 24, 39, and a little bit before that. Actually, I'll go to 38. For in those days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage until the day that Noah entered the ark. So Noah entered the ark. God shut the door. The people around the ark didn't know what was going on until the flood started to come, which took some time. They're probably on their roofs. They're up in a tree. They're up in a mountain. They're going up higher and higher. The water just keeps coming up. They're looking at the ark and they're saying, I didn't know. I didn't understand until the water came and lifted them up. They're in a boat and they're being lifted up and we're all going to die here. But that's what Jesus is saying. The emphasis in 39, the flood came and lifted them all. That is referring to the ark. That is not referring to the people being destroyed by the flood. That's not referring to people being swept away by the flood. No one was swept away. It barely even talks about them. Jesus is referring to the same thing, the same story that's in Genesis. The people didn't understand until the ark was carried off by the water. There will be 2 men in one field. One will be received, accepted, one will be left. The people that are left will become bird food. The ones that are received, those are the ones that's going to know what's going on when they see the sign, when the sign of the Son of Man is revealed, and they run. That's what's going on here. And if you go back to Luke 17, it's the same as it is in this part of Matthew 24. And it starts around verse 22, I think is where it is, where again he starts to warn people about being deceived and not being able to see things in the Son of Man. But again, to prove that it's even more about the people, he's talking about Noah in 28, Noah being destroyed by the flood, the people of Noah's time being destroyed by the flood. That's very unambiguous. But I think a lot of people mistake that being destroyed in Matthew 24, where they say they didn't understand until the flood came. They figure it's just being destroyed too, but it's not. It's not the same thing. And Matthew and Luke disagree all the time. For example, in Matthew, Jesus goes to Egypt with his family, but in Luke, when he's done with his offerings, he goes right back home. So they are different accounts. They are different people, and they have different stories. It doesn't mean it's not true. It's just, again, you should not take, this word means that, so it always means that. You have to take every single word of the New Testament on its own merits. You can compare it to other things, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the same all the time. And here, if a lot of people assume that it is, and I think they've gotten the wrong idea. Again, it doesn't really matter because it happened 2,000 years ago. What's done is done. But it's just something that I've noticed. I've never heard this before. I'm sure it's been done somewhere. I know I'm not the first one. I just never heard of it because everyone else thinks it's judgment coming, and the people that are taken in judgment, and it's the rapture. That's the other one. The people taken are rapture. That's not it either. There's no words to convey either of them. It's not a judgment thing. They will be destroyed. But what Jesus is saying is, just like in the time of Noah, everything was good. Just like in Jerusalem, everything is good. Everything will be good 30 years from now. They won't be perfect, but they will be good. Then the Roman army will come, and the Jerusalem will be destroyed. He's saying it's going to be just like that. But just like in the days of Noah, the people in the ark are going to get out. They're going to survive. Everyone else will be destroyed, but they'll survive. In Lot, everyone will die except Lot and his family. Excuse me. Same thing here. Jesus is saying in the future, the Roman army, everything will be fine. The Roman army will come. They will destroy these people. He doesn't say that verbatim, but that's what's going to happen. And you lot, you people, I'm going to say a lot, but you people that are listening to this, that pass this down to believers, are going to recognize the sign that I'm coming, the sign of the Son of Man. And when you see this sign, you run. That is your ark. That is your notice. That is how you're going to get out, to perceive the signs of the times. But this is about the people that are going to survive, not about the people that are being destroyed. But they are mentioned. And they are mentioned when you get down to 34. One will be taken, one will be received. That's usually what it says. I think that taken, or one will be taken, one will be left. I think that's very deceptive, and it happens a lot in these New Testaments. It's not taken. It's received. It's paralambatani in Matthew. In Luke, it's paralam, has the omicron in it, which is future tense. So Luke is future tense, and Matthew is kind of present tense. But what it's saying is, one will be beside gotten. That's what that para is, beside gotten. It's not a forceful thing. It's a pick up Jesus and take him to Egypt. Pick him up and take him. It's not like when Jesus was arrested where they put hands on him. It doesn't say anything like that. It just doesn't work in these two chapters. The only thing that works is when they leave, those will be the people that will be received eventually. They will be received. The other ones will be cast off. They'll be left. They'll be left. And when they ask, "Where, Lord?" what will become of the people that are left? That's what's being said here. Because it says right here, 2 people will be grinding, 2 people will be in bed, 2 ladies will be grinding, 2 men will be in the field. One will be received, the other one will be left. And answering, they said to him, "Where, Lord?" Because they just said, the people that see the day of the Son of Man, when the Son of Man is revealed, and the people on their housetop, they're going to notice it. The people in the field are going to notice it. They're going to run out. So they know what's going to happen to them. They know that they're going to be out in the mountains. They're going to leave. They're going to escape. That's already been said. So what they're asking here is, 2 will be in the field. 1 will be received. 1 will be left. And then one of them asks, "Where, Lord?" Then that's where Jesus says, where the body is, there also the vultures will be gathered. Just like in Matthew, because they've been deceived. Either they've been deceived by a false Christ, they've been deceived by the Pharisees, they've been deceived. They didn't accept the good news. And that's also parlambano. They did not receive the good news. They didn't get it. And just like the people in Lot's time, just like the people in Noah's time, there's people that get it, and there's people that don't. And I'll also have you notice that there's also the same dichotomy where it's not a big group of people. Noah's group was not a big group of people. Sodom and Gomorrah's group, not a big group of people. And if you look at the present times, it's like the same mold every single time. There's tons of Christians out there, but I don't really know anyone that thinks that Jesus already came. There's a group of people called preterists that believe that, but I think they only believe that just because it's just a style. I'm a Baptist, I'm a Catholic, that's my style, that's who I am. It's more like that. I don't really know a lot of people that read it that way, but that's the way it is. That's what the New Testament is saying. The only reason people believe Jesus hasn't come back yet is because, again, perception. They look around, they say, well, this can't be heaven on earth, so he didn't come back. But when you do that, you're calling Christ a false prophet and God a liar, and that's not good. If you believe Christ and he said that he's going to do it, you just believe it. It doesn't matter if you look outside and see war and terror. He said it, and either you believe it or you don't believe it. And it's kind of the same thing here. People believe a very different opinion of what's happening here. But if you actually read it, if you actually listen to these videos, watch them, and look at it for yourself, you'll see that Christ is not talking about the people being destroyed. It's not a judgment thing. Everyone knows that city is going to be destroyed. I think it's implied. It's everyone's already aware of it, because when Jesus says there won't be one brick on top of another. It's something bigger than a brick, stone. And then they get to the Garden of the Mount of Olives, I think, or the Garden of Gethsemane. I can't remember. But when they get the Olivet, it's the Olivet Discourse. So when they get to the Mount of Olives, they sit him down. They say, "Hey Jesus, when's this going to happen? And what will be the sign?" That's when they inquire. So they know it's going to be destroyed. But what will happen? What will happen to the people that are left? Jesus answers. I don't think that's really asked, but Jesus says, "Look, there will be people that will survive." And then they're asking, "What about the people that don't survive?" Well, where the body is, there also the vultures will be gathered. So it's going to be hell. Just like in Matthew 23, it's going to be bad. It's going to be the worst thing ever. And they just sit there, and just like people today, you tell them things, they just sit there, "Oh, okay." They just don't believe it. But I guarantee you they will believe it, just like these people did. Everyone else will believe it, and they're going to see the horror of the things taking place, and it will be too late, because that's not the way it works anymore. Now you have to die to find out what's going to go on, what went on, and it's going to be bad. It's going to be real bad, and there's no going back. You can't change it because you're dead. And what's happening here is the people that are escaping, the people that are being received, the ones that will be, I think, his coming is at night. That's what verse 34 is, the people that leave. Because I think verse 34 is, in Luke 17, you may have a brother or brother-in-law, and one of them says, "Oh, there's a Roman army. Let's get out of here." The other one's like, "What are you talking about? It's Roman. It's an abomination of desolation." I don't know if that's true or not. They don't look that bad. Whatever is going on. So maybe someone did escape with someone else, but they still weren't believers. So they probably woke up the next day in their bed up in the mountains, and they're all by themselves. Everyone else is where everyone else, like the two women grinding, the two men left in the field, these people have been what they refer to commonly these days as raptured. Jesus came like a thief of the night and took them away, possibly, if that's what it's saying. But that's a different subject. So I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, if you've seen anything like this before, feel free to comment.